I'm Sarah Werfel. I've been married for 11 years to David. He's a first responder with Sun City Fire Department.
What are some of the challenges of being a spouse to a first responder?
I think, and I've been a wife to a first responder for several years now, but I think a lot of it is you're doing life alone. When he's gone, life continues. You've got kids, you've got sports, you've got events, holidays. And so a lot of times, like once he starts a tour, you're like, okay, I'm starting this solo thing for 48 hours, like let's go. And I think right now I have kind of a rhythm and a routine down, but yeah, it's like, okay, what do we have this weekend? Birthday parties, holidays, family dinners, what am I gonna tackle alone? And what do I have the mental capacity to handle? And so I think, yeah, just it would help a lot to have that your person with you at night for the end of the night stuff, and by the end of the day you're so tired, but they're off helping the community. And
does it get easier the longer he's been on the job, or does it stay pretty stagnant of consistent, I should say, of being stressful?
Yeah, I mean, you develop a routine. Like I said, once he leaves for work, it's like, okay, I've got my own routine and schedule down, and there are some days that are easier than others, but with kids, young kids, life happens, and you're like, I really wish I had, him here to handle this or to deal with that. And, but you get used to it. Yeah, it's easier on some days than others.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like before Dave got help. What were the routines like before he got help?
I mean, yeah, our life has been wonderful. I mean, I'm somebody that can always see the bright side and stuff, and we have a family, and there's a lot of good memories. But with respect to David's mental health, I think prior to Compassion Alliance coming into our lives, it was very unpredictable. We never knew what kind of mood he would be in or what our day would look like. If he's coming off a shift, did he get enough sleep? Did he have any, plenty of water? Did he have an especially hard call? We never really knew. And so unpredictable was probably the best way I could, put it. I never knew what kind of day it was going to be. And then if it was a hard day, or if we were in like an especially hard season, that impacts me as a wife, as a mom, as a person. And so there were plenty of times where I was super lonely and didn't really have anybody to talk to about it. And there were times where I'd kind of be, from the outside looking into David's life and, wondering, does David enjoy his life? Does David enjoy being a father? There was a moment in time where I was pretty sure that he didn't enjoy much of anything at all. And so that impacted me greatly.
Do you know what, can you kind of walk me through what Dave went through, with Compassion Alliance, what services he got, and how that, what that looked like on your family?
Yeah, so he started, once he realized that he needed help and he wanted to get therapy, he did go through a couple of different therapists until he finally landed on Compassion, and was almost immediately kind of excited about it. Once he talked to the folks at Compassion, he felt really good about it. He started doing the therapy. He started coming home with books and resources and reading material, and he would give us, he had me reading some stuff, and there's children's books out there, and kind of getting the whole family in on it, because it's not really a secret. The stressors that come with being a first responder or being the loved one to a first responder are, it's some heavy stuff, and a lot of that can manifest differently. For David, it was a lot of anger, it was a lot of just depression, a lot of emotional unavailability. He would be physically there, but I could just tell he was almost like a shell of a person. And so
just kind of disconnected a little bit.
Just completely disconnected. And your kids don't see it that way. They want your attention, they want to talk, they want to play, and they don't really consider whether you've had a good night's sleep, or if you've eaten yet, or if you've had any time to yourself for 5 minutes. They just need you and expect you to be there. And so once he was honest with himself that he needed help and started doing the therapies, he kind of got the whole family in on it. This is, what I'm going through, and, let's kind of understand this for the kids. It was those, some books and kind of explaining it to them in terms that they understand.
Do you remember when you guys were going through that? Like, did the kids have questions for you? Were they receptive to what Dad was talking about? Did they see the changes in Dad?
Yeah, I think right away, our oldest especially, she's a little bit, she understands it a little bit more, and she was able to ask more specific questions. For our little ones, it was more, their biggest thing, they don't really say like, hey, I'm having a hard time, or I'm not understanding what's going on with you, or I don't, they're just like, can you play with me? And that's how they want to connect. And so him being able to get down on the floor and get the Legos out, or get, and play with them was, okay, Dad's in a good mood, or Dad's, I'm important to Dad. It's easy to kind of, I think for David, going through all of the stress and emotions and just unaddressed things, he would just zone out, be physically there. He'd be awake and moving, but he wouldn't be there, and they'd be, it was like lights on, nobody home. Mm-hmm. Or he would just completely isolate himself and go lay down and then be asleep for hours and hours. And part of that could be that he just needed rest. The sleep schedule of a first responder is very up and down. So a lot of times he really did need sleep. A lot of times it was just his way to escape reality.
Yeah. So that's cool that you're sharing that about the kids. Would you be willing to share about yourself? Like, what did your relationship with David look like once he started getting help?
As soon as he was honest with himself, I feel like that opened the floodgates for him to be honest with anybody who asked or was willing to listen. So his willingness to have a conversation, and for me to be just vulnerable with him back, we were able to kind of go back and forth, and he was able to share some things with me that I didn't know. I didn't understand about his job or his work, or the depth of what he really was experiencing. And so we were able to kind of talk it through, and I was able to support him more specifically, instead of just be like, well, you're ignoring everybody, like, are we not important to you? Or, and so I think communication was huge for us to be able to connect, and for me to start to understand a little bit more of what he was really going through.
Do you feel like through his healing journey, do you feel like he walked away from that with tools to bring back into your marriage?
For sure. Yeah. He, little things that used to kind of set him off. I'd see him, doing the breathing, taking a step back. He wasn't really quick to respond all the time. He would, think about what he was going to say before he said it, or he really did. His deep breathing is huge. He always does that, and kind of takes a moment to pause, exercising a little bit more, and, really getting that physical exertion, rather than keep it all pent up inside. Just working on things that he enjoys. He likes working on with his hands. He likes helping people.
Who would you recommend seek out the Compassion Alliance? Like, do you feel like it's been an impact on your family that you would encourage others to reach out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're a first responder and you're struggling, 100%, find help. The Compassion Alliance has been wonderful for my family. And I think even if you're the spouse of a first responder, or a loved one, a parent, I think that there are services out there for you, because the first responder is going through it, but that can oftentimes impact your family as well. And there's, there were times where I felt like I needed to talk to someone, and I just didn't know who to turn to. I don't want to bug my family. I don't want to bug my friends, or, everybody's got their own things to worry about. I didn't want to open up or bother people. But yeah, you definitely experience stuff too.
Big part of what we do come from donors. It comes from community members that care deeply about first responders. What would you say to those donors that are funding us and allowing us to pay for trauma therapy for families, first responder families?
Yeah, thank you. Because when you donate, you're helping a real family. You're helping a father and a mother and kids, live a better, more full life with their first responder being healthy. I mean, as the wife of a first responder, there's definitely, I recommend, if you're feeling alone, I mean, I get it, like I said earlier, doing doing the holidays by yourself, picking event, because you still want your kids to have a full life, and you still want to take them to the birthday parties and the holidays and the family gatherings and whatnot. But it can be very lonely for sure. And if you are a first responder wife that just feels alone in all of this, reach out for sure. I mean, there's no one that understands it better than a fellow first responder wife. So make yourself vulnerable, find the others, put yourself out there, get together, park, coffee, something. I mean, more than likely we're willing to be there to support one another.